All right, so again, this is going to be continuing off the 5-1 lecture. So I'm going to be doing a couple other things that are going to be discussing what's in this default tray over here. Um, as mentioned, we kind of already went over materials previously, but we'll kind of get into that a little bit deeper here. So this is the default tray. It holds a bunch of advanced things that we're going to be working with. The first one here is going to be entity info. This gives you information about things you have selected. So if I have this selected, it's going to tell me what the definition is. It's component number 2. If I click on this, it'll tell me this is a section. There's... Sorry, I need to see if this works. Oh, no. Okay, yeah, it does just change that right there. Okay. I thought it was going to increase the number. All right. So yeah, you can see what's going on with different things here. You can even go into certain areas and figure out like how there's 36 entities that make up this. If I do this selection, there's 5. So it'll tell you kind of the number of faces and edges that you have and things, which can be helpful, especially if you get into stuff like this. Like these have 244. Again, we're not going to talk about rendering quite yet, but that's a lot of faces just for a simple cylinder. But yeah, entity info. This is for me. This is the one way that I go about changing tags. Tags is SketchUp's word for layers. I'm gonna say layers probably once or twice unconsciously. Tags and layers are the same thing. They just at some point they renamed them all because they were named labels and they just renamed them all to tags. So it's the same thing. We'll discuss them down here when we get to that point, but we're going to kind of go in order here. So materials, we talked about materials. We applied a couple materials. B to open this menu. You've got a couple different ones. If you've done the milestone, we already applied some of these as well. We have the default material. We have a sampler that's right here as well. So if I want to figure out what each of these ones is, I can use the sampler to kind of select it back from there. In model shows you everything that you've got loaded into your model. So anything that you have in your model is going to appear here. If it doesn't have this little like white tab at the bottom right there, it's not used currently. So at some point I used this for a shadow green and then I replaced it with something else or removed whatever it was attached to. We'll be discussing that in just a minute, but let's stay on this for now. So right now I have this, let me grab this one with the yellow because we'll actually be able to see this. So I have this dandelion burst, it's got a name. I can go to the edit tab right here and I can call this bold yellow. And now this is bold yellow. If I go to my menu right here, hover over it, it tells me that this is my bold yellow color. So you can change the names of the colors. It still exists here if I go to the solid colors menu, whichever one of these it is, probably this one right here, dandelion burst, it's still available. What's nice about being able to select and differentiate these colors is I can now select this one, and because these are all the same color right here, I can change them. Right? So if there's some specific color, if there's a primary color and a secondary color and some tertiary accent color I'm using in my model, I can have, primary color 1, primary color 2, primary color 3, all in my model setting or on my model colors right here at the top. So if you go in and you add like a little squiggly right there, and then we call this, this is going to be main red. And these sort of notes just sort of help me organize stuff. So now it's main red. Anytime you put those squigglies in front, it's going to resort them. Main green. And then, well, it used to sort them. But we'll go ahead and change this one now. So this is that. We'll apply it here. And then we can change these settings again. We can use different types. So there are different options that you can have for how you modify this. You can also use a texture image. A lot of the things that we have in here for the textured materials are going to have their own texture to begin with. Let me get... So like we've got, say we've got this plywood right here. Beautiful, beautiful. No, let's not do plywood. Okay, we've got this parquet wood floor that's very tiny. so let's say we wanted to do this style of floor, but we kind of wanted it slightly differently. So like right now, let me actually just let's do four things with the floor. Okay, so we've got this wood floor pattern right here, but like it's not perfect for our model. We wanted something a little bit lighter. So we could take this right here, and this will be our wood floor. So again, separate it from the original one. We can change the color, so maybe it's a little bit darker and a little less saturated. So you're gonna get a different color going on there. Maybe it's more saturated and it's a little bit kind of yellowisher, right? If this pattern is also not the size we want, we can change that here with these settings. So if I set that to 5 foot, you can see that now it's a little bit tinier. If I go zoom out here and then undo that, you can see that it's kind of different, well, and it changes the color. So you can change the size of your patterns there. You can change sort of the influence of the color. And then right here we have a texture image. If I uncheck that, it goes away. And if I recheck it again, I can use, you know, whatever texture image I want. Let me grab a texture image. Okay, so I'm just here on the Googles. I am stealing all the textures. So we'll go ahead and just save this and downloads. We'll call this New Wood Floor. And then we'll go ahead and select this from my, where'd my downloads go? My downloads. Where did I save it? New Wood Floor. What? Give me a minute. This is... Okay. It was doing the annoying thing that Google does to protect images. Okay. So, New Wood Floor right here. And now there I've got that new pattern I just selected right there, filling in this floor. Again, if I don't like it, if I think it's too small, I could say take this up to 15 feet, maybe 20 feet. And we can tweak the color a little bit and do different things. So it's pretty handy. There's a couple other cool things you can do with this. For example, right now this is kind of there. If you move this around, you can see that it kind of sticks to that spot. If you make it a group, it moves with it. So if you're trying to adjust something to be just in the right place, what you can do is like move it out here, and then we would move this around. There we go. And it might take a little bit of shifting and editing to kind of get it just right to where I want it. And then you can kind of just tweak things around like that. As far as like curved surfaces like this one actually worked out a little bit better than most. So you can apply it to curved surfaces. Sometimes it gets a little glitchy. If you have obviously faces like these, it's just gonna do whatever it wants. So yeah, that's materials. There is one new thing they added pretty recently too, is 3D Warehouse for materials. So if you click on that button, I don't know if this is gonna work for you guys in the studio. But they have the 3D warehouse, and this is kind of our next topic. The 3D warehouse is where you can go download a bunch of stuff for SketchUp. So if you want, in this case, because we loaded it from the materials tab, it's going to give us a SketchUp wood collection. This looks very much like the default wood collection that we have available, but someone's probably added some new materials in here. Maybe we want different kinds of acrylic material. And let's see if and so this, yeah, no, it took me to the, oh no, let's stay there. Acrylic material, switch over to materials tab. No, we've got some fabrics here. Those are kind of nice. The materials are very new though, so that's probably why we don't have a ton. Let me see, 4,000 results in materials, but you've also got 5.62 million components. So the warehouse is going to be something you can use to go grab content for SketchUp, and that's kind of really what makes this program shine. is that you can just go grab something. If you want a couch, you can, and we're going to be going to components next, so we'll just go ahead and switch over there. It does have this built-in menu here. Drag that down. So if I'm looking for a couch, I can type couch right there, give it a little spinny minute, and now I can just start pulling couches from the internet into my model right here. Now, there's a couple issues with this. First of all, you can see that not all of them are going to be the same quality. If I grab this one, oh yeah, and now my program's slowing down. So first of all, not all of them are going to all be the same quality. Some of them are going to be really hard on your computer too. So if I place this right here, this presents us with another thing is some of them are going to be kind of weird like this. This is an actual company apparently. Where did I grab it from? So some companies will be really cool and actually include their accurate, models in SketchUp, and you can go in here and just say, "Oh, I want this one." Delete the rest of it and place it right there. So not all of them are going to be the same quality, but also, again, we'll get into why this is sometimes a bad thing. But just this pillow has 11,186 entities. Whereas this whole couch probably has, I don't know, he's still got 62 with that. So yeah, they're not all the same quality. Some of them, it's kind of a stab in the dark. Let me try grabbing this one. Sometimes they're like ridiculously oversized. Where's our person? So like those couches, correct size. This couch built in a different scale because again, we are in inches. This person might have been in like meters or no, it's they might have been in feet or something. But you can see that it's not to scale, and you can try and scale it, but even then, like it kind of, it is what it is. So there's pros and cons to using things from the warehouse. Another issue is if you go, with a lot of art. Let me see if I can get one on the fly here. Probably not, but we'll see. Yeah, see how that's taken a little bit longer than it feels like it should, whereas it should have been instant. What'll happen is you'll, like, right now I'm just downloading these things, right? And so it's like, oh cool, we've got some art right here. Well, anytime you download something off of the warehouse, it's going to end up in your model. So if I click on this little house right here, you can see here's all the components that are in my model. If I delete this couch right here and I delete this other couch right here, keep these, well, if I scroll down here, old couch is still here and whatever the other stuff is still here. Not only does this increase your file size, and SketchUp kind of starts getting weird after a certain point. I've noticed the limit's generally around 60 to 80 megabytes, which is very small, and it's never gotten better. I've seen a couple students manage to hammer projects together slowly once their project got to like 200, 500 megabytes. It's just crawling at that point. A few overachievers have managed to get over 1 gigabyte, and it's mostly just trash, like things that are left over here. So if I don't need these images, I'm going to delete them, but again, they're still here in my model, or in my file. So what you should do periodically, and SketchUp now gives you a warning about this too when you try to exit. I'm not going to try because it might close my whole thing out, but first you'll start in your components area right here, and you'll purge unused. That'll get rid of all the ones you don't need, or that are no longer in your model. So you see my list is shorter now, and we've only got a couple of these here. The other thing you'll do is go back to your materials tab, go to the home there as well, and then you'll do purge unused here as well, and it'll get rid of all the extra materials there. And again, this is a step where it actually saves you a bunch of space. I've seen students do this and then the computer locks up for 15 minutes because there's so much stuff that's no longer being used, but it's also trying to delete it all. So there's a right way and a wrong way to do this. Um, the right way to do this would be to have another window of SketchUp open, because you can just kind of, I'll just do it real quick here. You can have multiple windows of SketchUp open. So if I open another one right here, and then once it loads in, eventually. Okay, so if I go into the components of this one right here, we'll go ahead and get rid of this lady right here. And then let's say I want a dining chair. So I'll search for dining chairs. I'll find one that looks okay. And then it won't place it because why would it? Why would it work? Oh, is this loading a... Yeah, okay. It was loading a library. All right, so we've got bent wood chair right here. So I'll go ahead and place that. So that's fancy. I like it. We haven't talked about tags yet, but let's go to our tags now. Oh no, this one's actually pretty good. Sometimes what will happen is you'll bring them in, and then you'll end up with like 400 different tags here from whatever software. This is a nice library. These are nice. Okay. So anyway, what'll sometimes happen is you'll end up with a whole bunch of other tags here. Maybe if I do dining table, um, we can grab one. Come on. Oh yeah, you know it's a good sign when it lags your program out. Okay, so there we go. See if I can place this. Yeah, so like this comes with all kinds of stuff I don't need. So first thing I'll do is I'll just go in and when it lets me, we'll get rid of the extra layers I don't need. And we'll talk about this in a minute. So we'll just delete those tags, assign them to untagged as the default, and then we'll go ahead in here and we'll get rid of like this lady right here, and then usually what I'll do at this point is I will purge all the materials. So I'll go to home, and you can see that we've still got a whole bunch here even after we just did that one step, right? So again, this is kind of OCD-ish, but let's purge unused, and now we've only got a couple that we're dealing with here. But like I don't know where, like this is probably they used a, yeah. So geez, even my computer's slowing down looking at this. So who knows how many, yeah. So like this flower arrangement right here, it's immediately out. I'm dumping this. We have better ways to do this in Enscape to do flowers and stuff. So I'm going to delete that, and now my computer's already running better, right? We can go ahead and sample like what's this chair material. We'll go ahead and delete this from there because that might be a pretty high texture or pretty high resolution texture that I'm not interested in having. Same thing with this right here. Especially if we're going to end up replacing it with something in Enscape, it's probably easier to do that. Now, maybe I like this wood texture that they used. Maybe I'm fine with the color of the table. Is that a texture? No. Okay. So at this point, like, I'd be happy with this. So now I could take this and then just, this is what I would copy paste into my project, right? Assuming that it didn't bring in that plant. Hopefully it didn't bring in that plant. So yeah, it's just kind of being careful, making sure you purge anything that isn't necessary out, and then making sure you purge unused for your components and then your materials periodically. Let's see, this was the, yeah. So if I close this now, don't save change, oh, yeah. So yeah, sometimes SketchUp gives you a check, but I think you have to have a saved file in order to do it. So I don't have that on this. So let's go ahead and move on now to, so we just did materials, and then we did components, loading components. We kind of talked about how groups and components of work. We've talked about how to load them from the warehouse. Let's talk about styles. So we discussed this kind of early on. It was like literally the first thing we talked about was the styles of the background that we have, and then sort of how things are rendered. What this does is adds extra things that you can do here. So if you want to style it, like you can change how your lines are rendered here, right? If you want to change, let's see, here's the default ones. So like that's the architect one. This is the one that's just all white that kind of overwhelms me after a bit. There's other ones in here where you can do weird palettes and stuff. Maybe for maybe you've got problems with like, what is it? The thing where you can't see colors. God, my brain is not working tonight. Um, there's a whole bunch of different ones here though. Like this one for some reason looks a little bit like fabric. This one looks kind of like a charcoal thing. So you can have a whole bunch of different ones that you choose. Obviously, you'll probably just be working with one sort of thing, but like even then, maybe you're getting ready to export this and you don't want your lines to show up. So you can come in here and change some settings around so that your lines don't show up as much, right? And then you could kind of you could almost render this a little bit easier if you wanted to. And then just jump back to your default. And just like a material, you can save these. And there's, kind of different things you can do with it. So styles, they have a couple uses. There's sometimes some sketchy ones here, like not sketchy as in weird, sketchy as in like a sketch. And these can be pretty nice for like using to generate concept sketches to work off of. Excuse me. All right, environments. This is a new thing they added. This came in last year. Let me get back to that. Okay. So environments they just added the other year, and it's like right now we're working with the default, so we've got kind of our weird kind of, well, now we're on a grayish sky, but we've got those different settings there for the styles. But this can add in actually a background here. So if I was trying to do this and I didn't want to throw it into a 3D rendering program of some kind, you could set this up to kind of create a fake skybox. Skybox is sort of a pseudo surrounding, like think you're in a cube that goes off into infinity. The skybox fills that in. So that's what we're working with here. And so you could use this if you kind of position things right. Like, let's say that oh no, I'm stuck in it. Get out. Okay. Let's get rid of our infinity cylinders. So like, let's say I was trying to do something where I'm trying to model like some cafeteria here, I'm saying that just because of the background that I'm working with here. So I've got this area here, and I don't want to have to throw it in a 3D rendering program. I can use this environment to create kind of a pseudo-realistic area that, I could kind of passively use and say, hey, this is sort of the area we're working with, and then try and position things so that they look approximately right in this area. So you can do this. It kind of works. They've got a couple different options here for you too. Excuse me. It's going to be a little bit blurry because it's not intended to be in focus, because it's just a background for your work. And you can do some different things with it. Change the exposure, change the reflections. So there's a couple different cool things there. I haven't used that much. I've used it twice just kind of messing around with something. But it is pretty cool that they have this as a feature now. All right, tags. So this again was get out of here, you sneaky extra tag. Okay, so this was again the layers. they're pretty straightforward. They're like a lot of everything else. Create new ones. You can click on them and rename them. So we'll call this new layer. For us, it might be something just like windows and doors, and whatnot, right? You can have a couple things here, like you can change the color that they appear as. And what this does is you have an option right here. This will color by tag. So to remove the colors that a bunch of other things are and then just color them by the tag. Because everything's on default right now, I can do, I'm kind of stuck with that. But like, let's say that I want to have, say my windows show up in a transparent purple, and then whatever tag 1 is shows up there. To change layers, again, entity info. So we'll go ahead and move this to tag 1. We'll move her to Windows, sure. And then I didn't hit OK. There we go. So you can do some really cool stuff with this without having to recolor your model. Especially if you guys are doing those, I forget what the diagrams are called in space planning. But you can use this just to generate your space planning, some of your space planning documents super quickly. You do have folders here, so you can group things together within a folder. And then obviously you've got a menu here that lets you purge unused layers if you don't want them. Right click. If you delete, see, I'm saying layers. If you delete a tag, it'll ask you where you want to move things to. Untagged is your default layer. And then we do also have a thing for dashes here as well. So if for whatever reason I need these to show up as such, you can do that. You just click on this again to disable it, though that's the line. There we go. The line is going to stay the way it was. Okay. Shadows are kind of cool, kind of get in the way sometimes, especially if you're going to send this out for 3D modeling to some other program. This isn't super necessary, and it just kind of slows SketchUp down a little bit, but it is kind of nice to, like, it can create a little bit of realism, especially if you just kind of crank it up both directions. It does have settings for time and date, so if you go kind of late in the evening, you're not going to have a lot of sun. You go midday, and it's going to be pretty straightforward up. Let me draw a ground so we can actually see that. So why is it being weird on me here? We should be seeing, was it the environment is doing it? This is weird. We should be seeing the shadows showing up. And it sort of is. What am I thinking of? There's something I didn't do. One second. There's something I did. Okay, there we go. I think it had something to do with the environment settings. Something screwed with that. I'll have to mess around with that and see what I can figure out what's going on. You can see that it generates shadows on the ground and everything. And then along with this, we can darken shadows. We probably shouldn't do that. Anyway, another thing that's kind of handy here that you can do is if you go to File and Add Location, and we'll give it a minute. So it will go and it'll pull, like, sort of, you can pick, wherever you are. And let's go ahead and say, hey, we're here. Actually, let's not do campus. Let's say we're up in the hills, right? So we're up here. And now we've got this property right here. So we can choose this location. Excuse me. And we'll say, okay, this is our physical location right here. It'll update our latitude, longitude, elevation, determine our true north offset. And then from there, it'll also it'll sort of just determine like what the correct offset for all our different things are. So now if we go back in here, yeah, so it's got me locked in at that UTC value, but it could alter the angle of your sun based on some of those settings there. So yeah, it's pretty cool how it does that. It's if you're again looking for a quick cheap render, you could go into your styles and again just get rid of sort of your profiles and your edges right here, and you could feasibly kind of export this out as like a cheap, not super high quality render, but you know, who's going to notice, right? It's missing a little bit of stuff, but you could kind of work with it. So yeah, that's shadows. Instructor is me. No. This just kind of tells you, like, as you switch through tools, it gives you hints and tells you stuff. You guys should basically be familiar with everything that's there, so we can just get rid of it. Soften edges is the thing. We kind of discussed this briefly earlier with. I actually need my lines back now. Of course, I just turned them all off. Oh, did I skip scenes? No, we just did shadows. We need to do scenes. Okay, so so scenes have two uses. They're pretty cool. The first thing is you can jump between points, right? So if I want to have if my group partner and I are working together and we say, hey, this is a really good scene right here, I'd like to keep this as something we reference, we can add a scene. So we'll just do create scene right there. And we say, okay, well, I also want to try from over here, from this angle. Maybe this is a different angle that we want to show off. So I'll position the camera here, add a new scene. So now I can jump back and forth between these two scenes. Sorry, I'm recording too much video tonight. Okay, so you can jump back and forth between scenes pretty easily right there, and it lets you just kind of add more as you need them. You also end up with these little tabs up here, so you can do the same thing. But another thing that it does is as you add the scene, it's actually going to change a whole bunch of settings that are in it. So so again, if let's say I've got a view over here, but I don't want to have all those background things going on, and maybe I've got a different art style that's going on. So I've got this right here. Now when I add this next scene, it's going to take all the settings that I have for all these other things. And if you go to update scene, it'll show you it's going to update the camera location, all your top level hidden geometry, so things that are saved or hid or whatever. Same thing for hidden objects, which are manually hidden. You've got your visible tags, so again, which layers are visible. You've got which section planes are active. So if I had a section plane that I had turned on for a particular thing, it would go to that. You've got your styles and fog settings. You've got your shadow settings, environment settings. So I could update this one. And then as I jump back and forth, it's going to go back to the state that it was in when I set that scene. Okay, it's pretty cool how it does that. And it saves you a lot of time if you have, again, like let's say that this one is now. Do I still have multiple tags, or did I deleted them all? Let me add like one more tag here. Good, purple. That's a good color. Okay, and so. So if I had another one here where I had my tags displaying like this, and again we do like no environment, and we do no shadows, then I could come in here, set another scene, and now it's going to do completely different things when I jump between these scenes. So you can save a series of scenes like that. It's very handy if you have, like, again, different styles and things you're jumping between, or you just kind of want to see, like, hey, this looks kind of okay, we're going to use this, but I want to edit this, so I add a couple more features in. So you can do that with scenes. The other thing it's used for as waypoints. So certain 3D rendering programs will allow you to chain together a number of scenes, and then it'll basically just jump between them. So if I have, like one scene here, and then, and especially if you integrate in the walk to it as well. But if I add another scene here, and then another scene here, then you could queue up a video animation that would basically cycle you between 1, 2, and 3. And you could do like a walkthrough, fly-through animation. That's how I did my car dealership presentation for my senior studio. And it also works for other things too, like let's say that I have one that's parallel projection instead. Then again, we could create that one as a scene, and I don't even know which one it is at this point. But yeah, so scenes are pretty handy, especially if you're kind of working in different formats that you want to have quick access to and not have to change all your settings and whatnot. Okay. Soften edges. So we discussed this early on, and I've got so many weird settings now, I don't even know. Let me see if I can figure this out. Turn that off. Default. Okay, so I've got all these shapes over here, and the thing I was talking about was, like, we've got these cylinders here, but if you triple click on them, you can see that these dashed lines are indicating that there's a bunch of different faces in here. So if we go to soften edges, we can turn this up and it'll kind of blend it, or we can turn it down and it'll start showing some of those edges. It's based on a sort of the angle of them. So if I was to stretch this out right here and then rerun the same task, you could see that some of them would kind of pop in earlier as the angle between them changes to something that's more open. And then, for example, if I wanted to use this as a material, I could almost do that. Sometimes it doesn't work. And there are ways you can kind of mess with it, where if I really wanted to do this soften coplanar, no, it's still not going to play nice. But you can use this to kind of create blended surfaces where the materials kind of change over the surface. But it works both ways. So if I wanted this to be, completely smooth, but if you go past a certain point, like, it gets weird like that. So try and stay under 60 degrees. And then here you can see, just because these are so narrow between each other, they don't take much. So like 20 degrees, whatever. So yeah, that's soften edges. Don't worry about overlays. We're not going to be really dealing with that. And then outliner is just sort of selection and things. So we're not going to worry about that either for this class. So this is your sort of quote unquote intermediate SketchUp demo. And then if you guys aren't back from spring break already, when you watch this, we will be doing a slightly more advanced one as well. So I will see you guys in class.